If you're planning to attend open houses, here's what's new. From updated rules around written buyer agreements to clearer definitions on what it means to work with an agent. These changes are all about transparency and protecting you as the buyer. In this video, we're breaking down what you need to know about open houses, buyer agreements, and when these agreements come into play, whether you're casually browsing or actively house hunting. Let's start with the basics. If you're just visiting an open house without an agent, you don't need to worry about signing a buyer agreement. That's right. There's no paperwork required just to check out a property. If the agent hosting the open house represents the seller, they're not going to ask you to sign a buyer agreement on the spot. Their role at the moment is strictly to represent the seller, answer your questions about the property, and make the home look as appealing as possible. So feel free to explore open houses without the stress of commitments or contracts. Often, the agent hosting an open house is not the listing agent. What they're actually doing is trying to pick up buyers by being the first contact. When that's the case, you can fully expect the "are you working with an agent?" question to come up. An easy way to avoid that uncomfortable conversation early on is when the question comes up, you can just say, "I'm not ready for that." That should stop any more questions. Here's another tip for you. You don't really need to register when you visit an open house. They're just collecting leads. Just say you'll sign on the way out if you're interested. Here's where things get a bit more formal. If you move beyond casual browsing and start actively engaging with a real estate agent, that's when the concept of working with an agent comes into play. But what does that mean exactly? You're officially working with an agent once they start helping you in a significant way, like identifying properties that match your needs, scheduling tours, or giving personalized advice. At that point, it's common for the agent to ask you to sign a buyer agreement before continuing. This step is important because it clarifies the relationship between you and your agent. It outlines what they'll do for you, such as negotiating on your behalf, and ensures you're both on the same page about expectations. The reason this particular new rule can be disconcerting is because you're asked to sign a contract before you've learned how the agent works. Are they detailed? Do they lack focus? Do they listen or just try to sell you on stuff? With that being said, opt for a super short contract length in the beginning, something like 7 days. If they push back too hard, just move on. Now you might be wondering, what exactly is a tour? This is a key term because a tour often triggers the need for a written agreement. A tour includes both in-person visits to a property and virtual showings. So if your agent walks you through a home via video chat while you're out of town, that counts as a tour. Whether you're standing in the kitchen of a potential home or viewing it on your phone, once your agent actively shows you a property, you are officially touring. You may also have the option of a touring agreement. This allows you and the agent to view homes with no fees and no commitment. However, if you choose to submit an offer, a buyer contract must be signed. Why are buyer agreements so important? I've covered this thoroughly in other lessons, but here's the short version. So while the focus on written buyer agreements, it comes down to transparency and protection for both you and the agent. Buyer agreements lay out exactly what services your agent will provide and what compensation they'll receive. It ensures there's no surprises, so you know what you're agreeing to before you commit. And the best part, these agreements are negotiable. You can ask questions, clarify terms, or even consult an attorney to ensure you're comfortable with the arrangement. Think of a buyer agreement as a roadmap. It keeps everyone aligned and prevents misunderstandings down the road. If you're planning to attend open houses, here's a few tips to keep in mind. Number 1, take your time, explore the property, ask detailed questions. Number 2, focus on things like the home's condition, the layout, the features that matter the most to you. Number 3, don't feel rushed or pressured into making decisions on the spot, ever. If you choose to approach the listing agent to put in an offer, you'd likely be an unrepresented buyer. Be aware, the listing agent represents the seller, full stop, not you. If you choose to move forward as an unrepresented buyer, that situation is well beyond the scope of this course. Suffice it to say, if you go this route, you better be darn sure of yourself and the process. Buying a home can be made to look very easy. What people don't know is what happens behind the scenes to keep contracts moving forward sometimes. I'll say it again, go the unrepresented route literally at your own risk. Navigating open houses and buyer agreements doesn't have to be complicated. By understanding when agreements come into play and what they mean, you can move through the home buying process with confidence. The big takeaway? You're in control. Open houses are a no-pressure way to explore properties, and buyer agreements are there to protect your interests when you're ready to take the next step. So, whether you're casually browsing or ready to buy, staying informed will help you make smarter decisions.